The war between Earth and the Zorth Empire had ended many years ago. The two sides were not friends, but they had stopped fighting. Peace was thin like paper, and at any moment it could tear apart. To keep peace strong, the Zorth Empire announced something called the Trial of Champions. It was not war. It was a contest. Each planet could send one fighter to show their strength and honor. The winner would earn the respect of the whole empire. Some said the winner would also be given a great reward from the king himself. Earth did not have many choices. Their soldiers were tired. Their best champions had already retired or were injured. But one man stepped forward. His name was Tom. He was once a brave warrior, now just a quiet man with a limp in his leg and a scar down his left cheek. He did not wear shining armor or carry a special weapon. His strength was hidden inside. The leaders on Earth were surprised. Why you? One asked. Tom only smiled and said, I have my reasons. When he arrived on the alien world of Draven, the Zorth people gathered to watch him walk through the spaceport. They saw his slow steps, his old armor, his tired eyes. They whispered and laughed. They called him the weak one. They pointed at his limp. Even the guards smirked. In their eyes, Tom looked more like a worker than a warrior. But Tom said nothing. He kept walking. The Trial of Champions was held in the great arena of Garenvale. It was built from black stone, large as 10 Earth stadiums. Inside, fighters from many planets trained for the contest. Some had sharp claws. Some had metal arms. Some wore high-tech armor with glowing shields. Tom had none of that. Just his basic armor and an old sword passed down from Earth's military. He found a small corner near the edge of the training hall. He did not speak much. He only watched. Day after day, he studied the other fighters. He looked at how they moved, how they attacked, how they made mistakes. One day, a large alien named Krosh came up to Tom. Krosh had skin like red stone and for small eyes. He was one of the favorites to win. You are broken, Krosh said, pointing at Tom's leg. Why do you come here to lose? Tom looked up and answered, Maybe I didn't come here to win in your way. Krosh didn't understand. He walked away laughing. Many others joined him, but not all of them laughed. There was one figure watching from above in the stands, a young alien woman in royal armor. Princess Mira, daughter of King Daros. She had seen the war. She had seen the cruelty, and she had seen how humans never gave up, even when losing. She looked at Tom and tilted her head. Something about him was different. The day before the trial, all fighters stood before the king. The Zorth king was tall, with silver armor and eyes that glowed. His voice was deep. You are here to show your strength. King Daros said, The champion who wins will be honored by all. Earth has sent a man I do not know, but let all of you fight with courage and honor. Tom nodded once and stepped back. That night, Tom sat under the stars outside the arena. He held a small picture in his hand. It showed a younger version of him with a team of soldiers. They were smiling. Most of them were gone now. Tom closed his eyes. I do this for you. He whispered in the morning. The first test began. It was not a fight between warriors. It was a fight against beasts. Each champion had to face a wild creature from the Zorth jungles. These beasts were not only strong, they were fast and clever. Many fighters were injured. Some gave up. A few were disqualified for cheating. When Tom entered the ring, the crowd booed. They expected him to fall in seconds. The gates opened, and a four-armed beast with horns and sharp teeth came out, roaring. Tom did not charge. He walked slowly in a circle, watching the creature's eyes, the way it stepped, the way its arms moved. The beast rushed at him, but Tom rolled to the side. His leg ached, but he stood back up. The creature tried again. Tom moved toward a broken pillar in the arena and stopped near it. The beast came fast. Tom ducked. At the last second, he used the beast's own weight to make it crash into the stone. Dust flew. The creature roared in pain. Tom used a piece of sharp stone and struck its weak point near the neck. It fell with a thud. Silence, then slow applause, then more, then cheers, even. King Daros leaned forward in his seat. Tom looked up at the crowd and said nothing. He walked out of the ring with a calm face and slow steps. He was tired. His leg hurt badly. But he had passed the first test. Princess Mira watched him closely from the royal box. She did not smile, but she did not look away. That day, everyone stopped laughing at the injured human, and the real fight had only just begun. The next morning, the sky over Draven was dark with clouds, but the arena was louder than ever. The second test of the Trial of Champions had begun. Only 12 fighters remained from all across the galaxy. Some were bruised, some were proud. All were ready for more. Tom stood at the edge of the arena floor. His right leg was wrapped with cloth, and his shoulder had a small cut, but his eyes were steady. Around him, the other champions stretched their arms and sharpened their weapons. Some looked at Tom with respect now. Others still doubted him. The announcer's voice echoed through the air. Today, the champions will face the arena of beasts. Traps have been set, dangers hidden, and more creatures from the wild lands have been brought inside. Only those who survive and reach the center of the arena may move forward. The gates opened. The ground ahead looked like a broken land, cracked stones, old bones, sharp rocks, and half-fallen walls. Smoke rose from vents. The smell of the wild filled the air. This was not just a fight. It was a hunt, a test of mind and body. Tom walked forward slowly while others ran ahead. The fighter named Krosh, with stone-like skin, shouted, "Keep up, human, or be eaten," but Tom said nothing. He bent down and picked up a broken metal rod. Then he picked up a piece of thick cloth and tied it around one hand. He was thinking. He was preparing. A loud roar came from the east side of the arena. A beast with 6 legs, sharp tusks, and green skin charged through the smoke. A fighter with a red spear attacked it fast. But the beast threw him into a wall. Another fighter jumped at it from behind, but was caught midair and thrown away like a rag. Tom moved around a broken wall, hiding behind fallen stones. He did not run. He did not shout. He watched. He noticed that the beast avoided fire. There was a pit nearby with burning coals. Tom took his rod and pushed one of the coals out with the cloth around his hand. He tied the burning coal inside a ripped cloth and threw it near the beast's face. The beast screamed and backed away. Tom didn't need to fight it. He just needed to pass. While the others tried to kill, Tom moved carefully. He found safe paths. He avoided traps. He saw one fighter fall into a pit of spikes. Another was caught by a hidden net and dragged into a wall. Tom helped one wounded fighter alien with blue scales by giving him a strong stick to walk. The alien nodded in thanks. Every step Tom took was slow but wise. He was not the strongest, not the fastest, but he stayed calm when others panicked. From the royal box, King Darrow's watched with deep eyes. His advisors whispered to him that human does not act like a warrior. No, he acts like a survivor. The king said. Princess Mira leaned forward. Her eyes followed Tom across the arena. While others roared, Tom remained silent. While others struck, Tom planned. She had seen fighters all her life, but not like this one. Near the center of the arena, the final beast appeared. It was the biggest, one yet tall as a building, with thick black armor across its body. Its eyes glowed red. It had crushed stone in its mouth and chains hanging from its arms. The fighters near it froze. Some turned back, others tried to circle around. Tom stood still for a moment, watching. Then he saw it. The beast moved slower on one side. Its left leg dragged slightly. He followed the pattern. Left, right, slow. Left, right, slow. Tom picked up a long chain from the ground. He made a loop and waited. As the beast walked near, Tom ran not toward the beast, but behind it. He threw the loop around a broken pillar and ran around the pillar twice. Then he tied the chain to another stone and used his weight to pull it tight. The beast stepped forward. Its leg caught in the chain. It stumbled. One foot landed on weak ground. The stone cracked. The beast lost its balance and fell with a loud crash. Dust filled the air. Tom did not wait. He ran around it and reached the center of the arena. He stood alone at the center stone. The horn sounded. The test had ended. 10 others had failed. Some were hurt. Some gave up. A few were still trying to get up. The crowd exploded in cheers. Not because Tom was flashy, not because he roared, but because he had done what no one expected. He had used the arena itself as his weapon. The king stood and raised his hand. Let it be known that Earth's champion has reached the center. He moves forward to the final battle. Tom looked up, breathing hard. His body was tired, but his heart was steady. Princess Mira stood as well. She looked down at him, her face calm, her thoughts hidden. Tom bowed his head slightly, then walked back toward the edge of the arena. Some fighters looked at him with quiet respect. Krosh, the strong alien who had laughed before, now gave a slow nod. That night, the fire in the arena stayed lit longer than usual. Tom sat alone again, sharpening his sword. He knew what was coming. Next up, one fight remained, the most dangerous one. The final champion. Kriv was waiting. The sun rose slowly over the alien city of Draven. The people were already awake. Streets were filled. The markets were quiet. Everyone was heading to the arena. Today was the final day of the trial of champions. Today, the last fight would happen. The name on every voice was the same. Kriv. He was not just a fighter. He was a legend. His skin was dark gray like iron. His arms were as thick as tree trunks. He wore armor made from the bones of beasts he had defeated. Across his chest, sharp marks were carved, each one for a victory. There were many marks. Kriv had never been beaten. Not once. He had won every trial for the past 6 years. Fighters feared him. Some left the contest only because they heard he was in it. His name made crowds cheer and enemies break. And now, he would fight a human, not just any human, but Tom, the quiet one. The man with the limp. The man who spoke little, but had reached the final through cleverness and courage. The crowd gathered. Early, the arena was full. The ground had been cleared. No traps, no beasts, just one circle. One fight. Tom stood near the gate of the arena. He checked the edge of his sword. It was simple and a little worn, but still strong. His arm was wrapped. His leg was tight with support cloth. He was hurt but ready. Kriv entered from the opposite side. The ground shook with each step. The crowd cheered wildly. He raised both arms and roared. His voice was deep like thunder. Tom did not react. He just looked at Kriv and studied the way he moved out in the royal box. King Darrow sat with his hands on his knees. His face was still. Next to him, Princess Mira watched closely. She did not cheer. She held her hands together and kept her eyes on Tom. The horn blew once. Silence fell. Then the final battle began. Kriv moved first, charging like a beast. His fists were heavy, his speed surprising for someone his size. Tom stepped back and dodged. He rolled once, then twice, keeping low. Dust flew around them. Kriv laughed. "Run, little man." He shouted and didn't answer. He kept moving. He remembered the earlier fights. Kriv was fast and strong, but he had a weakness. He got angry when his attacks missed and dodged again. Kriv swung to wide. Tom stepped aside and cut lightly at Kriv's side. The cut was small, but it made Kriv stop and growl. "You cut me." Kriv saved him, nodded once. Yes. Kriv rushed again, but this time Tom ducked and slid under him. He hit the back of Kriv's leg with his sword. Another small cut, another sign of weakness. The crowd watched in silence now. They had never seen Kriv get touched. Not like this. Kriv shouted and slammed his fist down. Tom jumped back, but the ground cracked under his foot. His injured leg shook. He fell sideways. Kriv used the moment to kick Tom hard in the chest. Tom flew back and hit the arena wall. His breath left his body. He struggled to stand, pain-filled. His side, Kriv walked toward him slowly. "You should have stayed home." He saved him, grabbed a handful of sand and threw it in Kriv's face. The alien champion turned his head, blinded for a second. That second was enough. Tom used the wall to pull himself up. He moved quickly behind Kriv and struck again, this time at the back of his shoulder. The blade cut through the armor a little. Kriv roared in pain and spun around. His eyes were full of anger now. He started swinging wildly. Each hit missed, but the ground round them shook. The crowd was shouting again, half for Kriv, half for the human. Tom backed up and breathed deeply. He had to stay calm. This was the moment he had waited for. Kriv was angry. Angry meant reckless. Kriv charged again. Tom dropped to one knee and slid under him, using the dust to hide his move. As Kriv turned, Tom stabbed forward with both hands. His sword hit the side of Kriv's waist where the armor was thin. The blade went in deep. Kriv roared louder than ever and grabbed Tom by the arm, throwing him across the arena. Tom hit the ground hard and rolled, coughing. His sword was gone. Blood dripped from his nose. Kriv stood tall but limped slightly. His side was bleeding. He held his ribs. Tom got up slowly. He could barely breathe. His body hurt all over. But his mind was clear. He walked toward Kriv again slowly. Like always, Kriv growled. "You are finished," Tom said. Not yet. Kriv swung one last time, but Tom ducked. Using his full weight, Tom pushed his shoulder into Kriv's chest and drove him backward. They both fell, but Tom landed on top. He picked up a sharp bone from the ground left over from the arena floor and pressed it hard into Kriv's injured side. Kriv shouted in pain and dropped his arms. The horn sounded. Crowd went quiet for a long second, then they erupted. Tom stood over Kriv, breathing hard. He didn't smile. He didn't raise his arms. He just looked at the royal box. King Darrows rose from his seat. His voice was strong. "The trial of champions is over. The human has won." Tom backed away and dropped the bone. He stood straight, though every muscle in his body wanted to fall. Princess Mira looked at him. Her eyes filled with something new. Not surprise, not fear. Spectrum, the injured human, had done what no one thought was possible, had defeated the great Kriv. The sun was still high in the sky, but the air in the arena felt different now. The ground was stained with dust and sweat. The crowd had gone from shouting loudly to sitting in silence, trying to understand what they had just seen. Kriv had fallen, and standing over him was the human Tom, the quiet man with the limp, the scar, and the slow steps. He had no glowing armor, no strong body, no heavy weapons, but he had something else. He had patience. He had heart. He had a mind that stayed calm under pressure. If horns blew again, the guards entered the arena and helped Kriv stand. The proud alien champion could barely walk. His side was bleeding, and he held his arm in pain. But he did not look angry anymore. He looked tired, and in his eyes, there was something new. Respect. Kriv turned to Tom and gave a slow, deep nod. Tom returned it without a word. Up in the royal box, King Darrows stood tall. His long cape moved gently. In the wind, his voice echoed across the arena. "The trial is finished. The promise made shall be kept. Earth's champion has proven strength not through power, but through will. Let all worlds remember this day." The crowd, still shocked, slowly started to clap. Then more hands joined, then cheers. Not wild, not loud, but real. Fighters in the stands, merchants from far cities, even guards, all began to show their respect. Tom stood still in the center of the ring. He looked up once, and his eyes met Princess Mirish. Had not taken her eyes off him since the start of the fight. When he was knocked down, she watched. When he rose again, she felt her breath catch. And now, as he stood victorious, she stepped forward in the royal box and spoke. "Father, may I speak to the champion?" The king nodded. A golden lift lowered from the royal box down to the arena. Princess Mira stepped onto it. Her armor shone, but she wore no crown. She came not as a royal, but as someone who had seen something important when she stepped onto the arena floor. The crowd went quiet again. Tom looked at her, unsure what to do. He had seen many leaders before, but none like her. Mira stood in front of him and spoke clearly. "You did not fight for pride. You did not fight to destroy. You fought to prove who you are. Many before you used strength, but you used your mind and your honor. That is rare." Tom nodded once and answered, "I didn't come to take anything. I just came to finish what others couldn't and keep a promise I made." Mira looked at him carefully. "And now that you have won, do you still want nothing?" Tom paused. His face was quiet, but his eyes held emotion. "I want peace," he said. "Not just between planets, but between people, between thoughts, between hearts. If this fight helped even a little, then I'm glad I came." Mira's expression softened. She turned to her father. "He has earned the reward, but I wish to give it myself." The king stood, surprised for a moment, then he smiled a rare sight. As he wished, Mira stepped closer to Tom. She removed the gold ring from her finger and held it out. This is a symbol of our house, a gift. Given only to those we trust. I give it to you, not because you won, but because of how you won. Tom looked at the ring. He hesitated, then accepted it. He bowed his head slowly. The crowd, now truly understanding what had happened, gave their loudest cheer yet, not just for a fighter, but for a man who had become a symbolizer that evening. The celebration began across the city. Music filled the air. Flags were raised. Food was shared in the streets. It was not just a celebration of a champion. It was a celebration of hope. Tom sat at a high table near the royal garden. A healer wrapped his arm again. Servants brought him fruit and clean water. But he did not act like a hero. He stayed humble, quiet. Thinking Princess Mira joined him. Do you feel like a winner now? She asked him, smiled softly. No, I feel tired. But I also feel like maybe something good has started. Mira looked at him with interest. You came alone. You fought alone. But now you have all eyes on you. What will you do next? Tom thought. For a moment, I don't know yet. I didn't plan to stay. But maybe there's more I can help with. Not with a sword, but with what I've seen. What I've learned. Mira nodded. Then perhaps your real fight is just beginning. The stars appeared above them as the night came. Draven's sky was clear and wide. Tom looked up, remembering his home planet far away. He had come here as a broken man. But now, something inside had changed, and even though his body still hurt, he sat a little straighter now. The celebration in the city of Draven lasted all night. Lights danced in the streets. Children ran through flower fields. Music echoed through every home and tower. People from many worlds sang and laughed together. The trial of champions had ended, and a human had won. But it was not just a victory of fighting. It was a victory of spirit. Inside the royal palace, the hall was filled with leaders, warriors, and guests from other planets. The long tables were covered with food, glowing, drinks, and flowers from all corners of the Zorth Empire. The sound of joy filled the air, but near the throne, something more serious was about to happen. Tom stood in front of the king. He had been cleaned and given a new robe, but he still wore his old boots and simple gloves. His wounds were healing. Slowly, his eyes were tired but clear. King Daros looked down at him. He did not speak right away. He stood slowly and raised his hand. The music stopped. The hall fell quiet. The champion of Earth has completed the trial, the king said. He entered the arena with a broken body but an unbroken heart. He did not win with rage. He did not win with tricks. He won with honor. And that cannot be ignored. Everyone listened closely. Even the hardest fighters stood straight. The king looked at Tom. Before the trial began, I made a promise. Whoever won would be given a reward of great value. Some thought it would be treasure. Others thought it would be land. But what I offer is something more lasting. The king turned toward his daughter. Princess Mira stood with calm eyes and her hands folded. Her silver dress shimmered under the palace lights. She had watched the whole trial. She had seen Tom fight, fall, rise, and win. But what had touched her more was his silence, his care, and his strength without pride. King Daros stepped back. My daughter shall choose freely. I do not give her as a reward. She is not a prize. She is my heir, and her word is her own. But if she chooses you, then you will be welcomed into this house. As one of us gasps were heard in the room. This was rare. No outsider had ever been invited into the royal family, especially not a human. Tom did not move. He looked at Mira, unsure what she would say. Mira stepped forward. She looked at her father, then at the people in the hall, and finally at Tom. I watched you fight, she said. I saw your pain, your choices, and your courage. You never looked for attention. You never wanted to rule. That is why you deserve to stand beside me. Not as a servant, not as a warrior, but as a man of wisdom and heart. Tom blinked. He had never planned for this. He had only come to honor a promise from years ago, when a human soldier had once saved a Zorth child in the war. That child had been Mira's cousin. That moment had led to peace talks, and when Earth was invited to the trial, Tom came to finish. what others had started. Now he was being asked to stay. The room remained quiet. Everyone waited. Tom finally spoke. His voice was soft. I came here to stand for peace. I didn't expect more than that, but if peace can be made stronger by standing beside you, then I will stay. Not as a prince, not as a ruler, but as someone who believes in what we can build together. Mira gave a gentle nod. She reached for Tom's hand and held it in front of the people. Then let it be known, she said. This human stands not below us, but with us. The crowd slowly began to clap. First, one hand, then another. Then the whole hall was filled with sound. People rose to their feet. Some shouted Tom's name. Others held up symbols of unity. A few Zorth elders touched their hearts in a sign of respect. Tom looked around the hall. It all felt strange, but not in a bad way. It felt like the beginning of something new. Later, in the quiet of the garden, Tom and Mira walked side by side. The stars above Draven were bright. The air was cool and peaceful. Are you sure about this? Tom asked her. Your people might not like it. A human standing with their princess. Mira smiled. Some won't, but many will. They need to see that strength is not only in power, it's also in patience, in kindness, and you showed them that. Tom looked up at the sky. I never wanted to be a symbol. I just wanted to finish something left undone. You did, she said. And now, you've also started something no one expected. Tom nodded slowly. Then let's make it count. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter. The silence between them was full of meaning. He had come as a broken fighter. He had stayed as a man of purpose. And now, he walked forward into a future he had never imagined. A few weeks passed since the trial of champions ended. The city of Draven had returned to its normal life, but something had changed in the air. People now looked at humans with different eyes. Where there was once doubt, now there was respect. Where there was once fear, now there was curiosity. At the center of this quiet change stood Tom, and Princess Mira. Tom had not returned to Earth. The king offered to send him back with gifts, but Tom stayed. Not for reward, not for fame. He stayed because he felt his presence mattered. The people were watching. The Empire was listening. In the royal palace, Tom was given a simple room near the eastern towers. He chose not to live in the high halls. He preferred quiet. Each morning, he walked in the garden, sometimes alone, sometimes with Mira. Mira enjoyed those walks. She had grown up among warriors and rulers. Her days were filled with laws, meetings, and public duties. But walking beside Tom gave her peace. They spoke about small things, weather, stars, memories from Earth and Draven. One morning, as they walked under a tree with golden leaves, Mira looked at him and said, You are not like other fighters I've seen. Most want power or control. You seem to want nothing. Tom smiled. I've seen too much to want more. Sometimes having less gives you more space to think, to feel, to live. Mira nodded. That's why people listen to you now. Even those who once laughed at you now come for advice. It was true. Slowly, leaders from nearby worlds began asking Tom questions. How to avoid conflict, how to solve problems without war. He gave simple answers, but they were honest. His words carried weight because they came from pain, not pride. Even King Daros, a man known for strength and tradition, invited Tom to speak in the Council of Stars, a rare honor for someone not born in the Empire. In one of the meetings, a leader from a desert world stood and asked, What does Earth offer us now, besides old stories and scars from war? Tom stood up, calm and clear. We offer patience. We offer second chances. We offer hands that build instead of fists that break. We are not perfect, but we don't give up. The room was quiet. Then the leader sat down and gave a slow nod. That night, Mira found Tom standing on a balcony, looking at the stars. You spoke well today. She said. Tom kept his eyes on the sky. I only said what I've always believed. Peace is harder than war, but it lasts longer, and it heals more. Mira stepped beside him. You've changed more than the people here. You've changed me. Tom looked at her. How? I used to think leading meant being strong. Now I see that leading also means listening and trusting those who see the world differently. Tom smiled softly. Then were learning together. A few days later, a special event was held in the capital. It was called the Circle of Peace, a gathering where old enemies shared words instead of weapons. Mira was the one who planned it. Tom stood beside her as a guest and guide. Aliens from distant moons and planets attended. Some looked strange. Some spoke slowly through machines. But they all came with one goal: to learn how peace could work. Tom shared his story, not just the fight in the arena, but the reason behind it. He told them about the promise he had made, the soldier who once saved a child. The reason he stepped forward when no one else did. I didn't fight to be a hero, Tom said. I fought because someone needed to stand up, and I stayed because I saw hope in people's eyes. That hope is stronger than fear. The room was full of quiet faces. Some blinked slowly. Others nodded. A few looked down, thinking deeply. After the gathering, a child ran up to Tom. Her skin was blue, and her eyes were bright. Are you the human who won the fight? She asked them, smiled, and knelt beside her. Yes. But winning wasn't the best part. What was the best part? Learning that people can change. Even across stars. The child giggled and gave him a flower. You're not scary like they said. Tom took the flower and placed it in his coat. Thank you. That means more than you know. That night, Tom and Mira stood in the royal garden again. The stars above were quiet, but their light felt warm. You've become a bridge between worlds. Mira Satam looked at her gently. Only because you gave me the chance. You could have chosen someone else. I didn't want someone perfect, Mira replied. I wanted someone real. Tom nodded. Then let's keep building this bridge. Together. Mira smiled. Yes. Together. The wind moved softly through the garden trees. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rang from the Sci-Fi. Peace was not easy, but it had begun, and it had a face now. The face of a quiet, injured fighter who never gave up, and the daughter of a king who believed in him. Years passed since Tom first arrived on Draven. The world had changed a lot. The quiet fighter with a limp had become more than just a champion. He had become a symbol of hope and peace for many planets. People remembered his name and his story, and they told it to their children. Tom and Princess Mira worked side by side. They traveled to different worlds. They met leaders, warriors, and ordinary people. They spoke about peace and trust. It was not always easy. Sometimes old enemies still wanted to fight. Sometimes new problems appeared. But Tom never gave up. Mira never stopped believing. One day, while walking through a busy market in Draven's capital, Tom saw a group of children playing. They were pretending to be fighters, but their moves were gentle and kind. They laughed and shared toys from different planets. Tom smiled, feeling a warm hope inside. A small boy came running to him. Are you really the man who beat Kriv? The boy asked, eyes wide. Tom knelt and smiled. Yes, I am. The boy laughed. You're a hero to us. Tom shook his head. No, I'm just a man who tried to do what was right. That night, Tom and Mira sat in the royal garden. The stars above looked the same as when Tom first arrived, but everything was different now. Mira looked at Tom. You changed our world. You made us believe that people from different places can work together. You showed that strength is not only in weapons but in the heart. Tom looked at her with quiet eyes. I only did what anyone should do. I fought for peace, and I stayed for hope. Mira smiled. And because of you, many worlds are safer now. Because of you, children can dream of a better future. Tom reached for her hand. We did this together. Years later, the king passed his crown to Mira. She became the new ruler, and Tom was by her side, not as a fighter, but as a partner and friend. Together, they led the empire with kindness and wisdom. The story of Tom, the injured human fighter, was written in books and told in songs. It was a story about courage, not just in battle, but in believing in something greater. It was a story about a man who came broken but left whole. A man who showed that being different can be the greatest strength of all. And on clear nights, when the stars shone bright, people across the galaxy would look up and remember the human who changed everything.